Me. You. Same as last week.
Exact same thing?
Well, no. Obviously, we're not talking about the exact same stuff as last week. You got a message or something?
Alarm for 9 a.m.
Well, you didn't want to forget about the show. Of course, had you just remembered at this point, we
I
would
didn't
be
set
in
the
trouble.
alarm. Let's go.
Welcome back to the TD Show. Busy day ahead. A lot of NFL talk. We'll recap Wild Card Weekend. Talk about the 4 upcoming games this weekend. We'll discuss the Hall of Fame vote this week. Who got in, who didn't. What might could be done to fix the process. In hour 2, we will be joined by former Lady Hornets coach Mary Lou Feast to discuss the upcoming Class A tournament. Then, time permitting, we'll touch on collegiate sports, recapping the BCS title game, talk a little Charlie Strong and Bobby Petrino hires. We'll try to get in a couple phone calls along the way this morning. I'll give you my weekly guarantee. Daniel will provide you with a little what to watch this upcoming week. And you can't forget 2 minutes with Paula Dan coming up in the second hour.
Don't forget, you can reach us on Facebook, facebook.com/The TD Show. Our Twitter handle is @The TD Show. And you can email us anytime at tdshow@outlook.com. Of course, you can listen to us at spreaker.com/users/TD Show. And after today's show airs, you should be able to watch all of the show on youtube.com/users/Medcalf TD Show. We had a few technical difficulties last week getting the show uploaded. Hopefully we'll get that up today. You should notice we're coming in a little more clearly than last week. We messed around with the audio, working out the kinks. You know, we're on our second show here. Hopefully we're coming in loud and clear. You can all hear us great. We appreciate you listening last week and glad you're here today. Don't forget, you can vote on our Facebook poll. If you go over to our Facebook page, you can see the poll there. Which team that won in the wild card week last week has the best chance to upset a division winner this week? Would that be New Orleans, Indy, San Fran, or San Diego? And speaking of wild card week, let's get started looking back at what happened last week, TJ.
Man, every game but San Diego and Cincy was decided by a total of 6 points. Some really close, really good games last weekend.
And really backwards of what we thought would happen a lot of the time.
Yeah,
we missed that one.
We thought San Diego and Cincinnati would be a really close game, and boy, was it not. Of course, we were more right than Vegas was.
Yeah.
They had it as a touchdown favorite Cincy's way, so.
Yeah, we at least picked a winner, but golly, I did not see that big margin of victory coming for San Diego. I thought that was going to be a battle. That was the only game I got right, I think, as far as who would win. The rest of the games were very, very good games, all close and fun to watch. Great TV, great sports, great NFL, but completely backwards of what we thought.
Yeah, let's start talking Indy 45-44 over Kansas City. You know, Alex Smith is the first quarterback in NFL history with at least 4 touchdown passes and no interceptions in a loss. And you know, and coming into this game, a lot of people thought Kansas City was really overrated. They beat up on some bad teams, lost to good teams. But I believe they came out and showed they were for real, even though they lost the game.
Yeah, Kansas City all year, what we'd heard and what we looked at was that defense. But they had a pretty good defense all year long. It didn't look like it in the fourth quarter there against Indy, but up until the fourth quarter, their defense looked legitimate. What we didn't understand and what we didn't expect to see was the explosive offense that Alex Smith provided with that offense there. You know, you got to like Andy Reid. You got to think he's one of the better coaches in the NFL. And he did a great job in Kansas City this year. He surprised a lot of people. Probably the biggest turnaround we've seen in the modern NFL, I guess.
Yeah, and you know, with all that being said about how good Kansas City was, and Andy Reid being impressive this year, after going up 38-10, they dropped back to pass on 23 of their last 33 plays, 70%.
Yeah.
I mean, and I realized Jamal Charles got hurt on that first drive, and the backup had some issues fumbling in college, but he was running the ball well.
Yeah, you had to think Jason Garrett was sitting there watching that game with his head in his hand, thinking, "Man, I have been down this road." And it's exactly kind of what we saw the Cowboys do: get up big lead and then blow it a couple times this year, and that was kind of the feeling. They didn't change their game plan. I can understand a coach having a game plan, wanting to stick to it, but you've got to understand the situation. You've got a quarterback who has showed his talent, but he's always been called a game manager. That's what you need to do. You need to let him manage that game, run the clock out. You're going to give up some points. We all know how good Andrew Luck's been in the fourth quarter, but if you got to manage the clock and keep him off the field as long as you can, something they failed to do, and it eventually cost them a big lead and a big loss.
Yeah, I mean, you can blame the loss on injuries. You had Charles go out, a big-time receiver. Bo went out, a lot of big defensive players. But I think the story of the game is the passing in the second half. You can't throw the ball that much. That being said, the Colts complete the comeback after being down 28. That's the second largest comeback in NFL playoff history. It's the largest comeback of all time, regular, postseason, and regulation. They're the first team in NFL history to win a playoff game when allowing 40 points and throwing 4 interceptions. So,
yeah, they had a lot of turnovers. That's something that the Colts don't do a lot. If you look at what their turnover margin is, I think their turnover ratio is like plus 10. I think they get a lot more turnovers than they actually lose. But in this game, they lost 4 of them. They still won. Here's the thing. Here's the kicker. It's what you told me last week. They have Andrew Luck. You put Andrew Luck in a fourth quarter. You put him in a game-winning situation. I don't care what it is. He has got something about him that's when he operates best. Look at his stats. Look when he's down and has to come back. His QBR is greater. His turnovers are less. And his yards per catch are a lot more when he's down and has to come back. He's just got that it factor that you can't really put in numbers, can't put on paper. He's a scary guy in the playoffs, a scary guy in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, all year he's kind of been groomed to that. He's been pressured on more dropbacks than all quarterbacks in the NFL except for 2. So, I mean, that when you're getting rushed that much, it really prepares you for a situation where you're far behind. The defense knows you're going to be passing, and they're going to be coming with the blitz.
Yeah, I think the number you had was 176 times he's been pressured this year. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But that fits his style more than other quarterbacks. He's primarily a passing quarterback, but he has the ability to run. He has the ability to get loose. And he knows the difference, unlike some of these mobile quarterbacks, as when to run and stay behind the line and get rid of it. That's when a lot of these mobile quarterbacks get in trouble. He's still, no matter how hard he's running or how much he's moving, he's looking to throw it first, and that's where he succeeds.
He runs to throw a lot.
He runs to throw, exactly.
And something I want to touch on real fast. How lucky is Indy?
Yeah.
Not just in this game specifically, but when you talk about the Peyton Manning to Luck transformation. I mean, under Peyton Manning, they averaged 11 wins a season. You lose Peyton for neck surgery, he goes 2-14, and then Luck comes and picks it right back up 11-5, 11-5.
Yeah, that says a lot about their organization. Front office structure. Their owner's pretty outspoken. Not a lot of people like him very much, but he does have a great system in place, great general managers, great scouts out there. They know exactly what they need to fit their system. Their system hasn't really changed between Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck very much. Still running a lot of the same kind of plays, trying to keep the same kind of people in there. They get a good quarterback, a franchise guy, and surround him with all the talent he needs to put points up on the board.
All right, let's go ahead and talk a little New Orleans 26-24 over Philadelphia. I'll admit I actually missed most of this game. I was playing a little pool, but I'm not very good. But I got to see the last drive. I saw Philly come down and score, and I looked at the clock. There was 4 minutes left, and I thought, man, you have left way too much time for a quarterback like Drew Brees. I mean, you just knew with that much time left, he was going to come down and win the game. And a big thing, coming into this game, we talked last week about New Orleans having to play outside in the elements and not in New Orleans, and they really came out and showed that they can play. And I think that's something that'll help them this weekend going into Seattle.
What happened on this game, it was close back and forth the whole game. I've heard a lot of criticism over the past week that they should have took a knee. They should have ran a few more plays before they actually tried to score. I don't know that I agree with that. I see, looking back at it now, it seems like a great idea. When you're a game and your season's on the line, though, and you've got an opportunity to score points, any player in the NFL is going to take that opportunity. Any quarterback, any coach, anybody on the sidelines is going to take that opportunity. It's easy for us to sit back and look at it now and say, yep, that's what happened. Our defense isn't very good. We gave Drew Brees the ball back, and he's pretty good. Even that day, I thought he might struggle a little bit outside. The weather was a lot better than it was supposed to be. Not any kind of precipitation really coming down much. Wasn't as frigid as anticipated, but Drew Brees did play great in that fourth quarter and brought him back. You can't fault the Eagles. They played well most of the game. They stayed very competitive. I thought that they had a slight advantage being at home. But you got to remember, it's Chip Kelly's first year, and they're in their first season under this new system, which kind of revolutionary to the way they played ball there. They've got a quarterback that started mid-season. Only way to go is up for them. They're going to look great next year, I think.
Yeah, I think even though they lost in the first round, I'd say they consider themselves more successful than any other team that lost in the first round.
I agree.
And something else that was really impressive, Mark Ingram running ball for New Orleans, something we really hadn't seen all year out of them, and they kept the ball away from Chip Kelly. And
yeah, they were able to limit Chip Kelly's time of possession, which is already one of the lowest in the NFL. And they kept it down. I'm going to throw this number out, but I don't know if it's correct. I think it was like 23 minutes. It was something very, very small time of possession for Philadelphia, which normally is not a big deal for Chip Kelly, but because they can run so many plays in such a short amount of time, but just were not able to overcome New Orleans and their newfound rushing game.
Now the game that I was wrong on, and you actually picked it right. San Diego 27-10 over Cincinnati. Now San Diego's won 5 straight games going into Denver. They had the most wins against playoff teams. They're 6-2 now. You know, I said it. We were wrong thinking it'd be close. Vegas was more wrong. I told you if you were going to bet this game to take San Diego in the points though.
Yeah.
So I was right on that account. But I think the bigger story, more specifically about this game, is Andy Dalton. He's now 0-3 in the playoffs with 1 touchdown, 7 interceptions, and he just lost his offensive coordinator going to Washington. So, I mean, you got to wonder, does he have a future in Cincinnati?
I think he does, at least for one more year. They're not paying him a lot of money right now. I mean, he's got a good contract. It's not a stupid contract. He's got another year under it. I don't think he's going to be gone after this year. I think they're going to keep him around, try and build around him. I mean, he's been great in the regular season, not so great in the playoffs. We can think of another quarterback in the NFL that's got sort of the same situation going on. He was just signed to a huge deal. The thing is, not is he that good, but who are you going to get that's better right now?
Yeah.
You could draft somebody, you could try and pick somebody up, but you've still got a year with Dalton. He's definitely going to be there next year.
And the thing is, under Gruden, the offense improved in about every statistical category every year since Dalton's been the quarterback. And we both agree that they'll probably give him another year. But you got to think, if you've got another offensive coordinator in there, you don't know that those steps are going to keep going forwards. I mean, there might be a transition period in there where they might take a step backwards.
Yeah, it's all going to depend on who comes in and starts running that offense and how their system's going to work. I think that the people of Cincinnati like Dalton. We hear a little backlash when he loses in the playoffs. I think they like him most of the time. To me, though, the big story was Phillip Rivers and that San Diego Chargers offense. 5 weeks in a row, they've been, win or go home kind of. They've been playing six playoff games, essentially, is what Phillip Rivers said. They've got an emotion, they've got a little swagger going, scared of nothing. Scares me a little bit when they come into Denver this week with that attitude. Maybe not with their talent level, maybe not with their personnel on the field, but they've got a mental toughness and an attitude that's kind of putting them above and beyond the rest of the league right now.
Yeah. And the thing with Phillip Rivers, they're talking about him coming into Denver and facing Peyton Manning this week, and I believe he's 3-0 against Peyton Manning in the playoffs. But of those 3 games, one of them he got hurt in the third quarter, didn't play the fourth quarter, and they were actually down when he left the game. And then in the second game, he had a QBR of 25, and Peyton Manning had a QBR of 75.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've really got to consider team effort when you see Phillip Rivers 3-0 against Peyton Manning and statistics like that. Moving on to San Francisco, 23-20 over Green Bay. I told you last week, San Fran's a team I like. They had 2 blowout losses early. finished the season 11-2, 1-point losses to Carolina, 3-point loss to New Orleans, coming in playing hot. I feel like this is a team that could make a run, and they showed it this past weekend.
Yeah, San Francisco is clear favorite to come in and win that game regardless of their seed and where they had to go to play, which is one of the crazy things about the NFL playoffs that maybe we'll touch on later. But, I picked Green Bay. I thought Green Bay at home, freezing cold, having their franchise quarterback back might make a difference. I was wrong. The talent of San Francisco won out. Like you said, they did lose too early, but since then they've looked pretty good. They're going to go to Carolina this week, and
where they're actually favorites. Yeah. Long time since a wild card team has been a favorite in the first round.
Well, once again, one of the crazy things about how we do seeding in the NFL that kind of leads you to believe that. Not a lot to talk about. Nothing surprising. Nothing spectacular happened. What everybody thought would happen, except for me, I guess.
And something to remember: six of the last 8 Super Bowl champions have played in wild card round, and I feel like if somebody's going to come from the wild card round, it would be them. The way they come, I mean, they came in like the 2010 Packers, the 2011 Giants, and the 2012 Ravens. They came in hot late. But we'll move ahead to this week now, and once again, don't forget to vote on the poll. Which team you think's more likely? Which wild card team you think is more likely to win this weekend? New Orleans, Indy, San Fran, or San Diego? The first game, New Orleans at Seattle. Seattle's an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah, we'll just look at the team stats in this game. I don't know, looking at the stats, if the Saints have a mathematical chance to win this game. Their defensive skills don't match up to the Seahawks offense, and their offense, where they're strong, Seahawks defense is even stronger. Let me give you some numbers here. The Saints are averaging 299.4 yards a game. That's fourth in the NFL. 307 of those yards are passing yards. That's second in the NFL. They're only rushing at 92.1 yards a game. That's 25th, seventh from last in the NFL. Their defense is allowing 19 points a game, which is pretty good. That's fourth in the NFL. 307 total yards per game and 194 passing yards per game. All those are ranked very high. The Saints defense, believe it or not, in points per game and yards per game, ranked pretty high. Seahawks, on the other hand, their offense scored 26.1 points per game. That's ninth in the NFL with an average of 339 yards per game, 202 of those being passing yards, 136 rushing yards. So they're not putting up the numbers on offense that the Saints are. Their defense is where they all stand out. They're first in all 3 of these categories I'm about to give you, which is 14.4 points per game, best in the league, 273 yards per game, best in the league, 172 pass yards per game, best in the league. Now you've got the Saints coming in averaging 307 yards per game in the air. Seahawks are only giving up 172 yards per game in the air. I think that it's just going to be too much for the Saints to overcome. I think New Orleans is going to fall in this one, unless for some reason they can surprise me and have a great rushing week again. Seahawks are going to be too much for them.
Here's the thing. Here's how I think New Orleans has a chance. They run the ball with Ingram like they did last week, and Seattle's offense struggles like it did the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. Russell Wilson and that offense was not the same offense it was the first 13 weeks of the season. That said, they beat New Orleans 34-7 at Seattle, so I mean, you've got to take Seattle here, I think.
Yeah, you've got to take Seattle at home, I think, throughout the playoffs, unless something drastic happens. It's hard for them to lose at home. They have done it, and it doesn't happen very much. They score quite a few points, and their defense is awesome. So it's hard not to pick Seattle Seahawks here.
Second game of the weekend, Indy at New England. New England is a 7.5-point favorite, but there's a lot of people that think if there's going to be an upset this week against the spread, that this is it, that Indy wins.
Here's the thing. You look at the numbers on this game, it leads you to believe that New England has the advantage, which I guess is where the odds makers are looking at here. The Colts offense averaging 24.4 points a game, 341 yards per game. Both of those are pretty low. That's about 15th in the league in total offense. They're passing at 232 yards per game, which is 17th, and rushing for 108, which is 21st. Their offense is pretty bad statistically, but they're winning a lot of games. Defense, a little better. They're only allowing 21 points a game. with 357 yards per game. They have a plus 13 turnover ratio. That's the difference maker here for Indianapolis. When they don't turn the ball over, they win. And they don't turn the ball over a lot less than they do. Andrew Luck, I think, is the key to this game. If you look at it, this year he's 343 for 570 passing attempts, 3,822 yards with a 60% completion ratio, 23 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. If he plays good, they win. Regardless what the numbers say, regardless what Tom Brady and Bill Belichick can throw at him, if he comes in and plays like he played last week with that almost magical quality to come back at the end, I think they're going to win, regardless of how good the Patriots offense is, who's scoring almost 28 points per game, third in the league.
Yeah, here's the thing. If Belichick devises a game plan to stop T.Y. Hilton, I really don't see how Indy can win this game. I mean, I know that New England's been devastated by injuries, and they're not near the team that everybody thought they would be coming into this season, even losing Wes Welker. But you touched on it, the magic of Andrew Luck. I mean, he's got 8 fourth-quarter comebacks, 11 game-winning drives. He's never lost 2 games in a row. He's 8-2 in games decided by touchdown or less, including the playoffs. He's won 7 career games after trailing by double digits. That's the most since he's came in the league. He goes to Fleener a lot on third down, get third down conversions. But if he doesn't have Hilton over the top, I'm not sure they can pull this out. Nevertheless, I'm going to take Indy because I believe in the magic of luck.
Me too. Exactly what I was going to say. You have to know, if you're Indianapolis, that Belichick's going to try and shut down T.Y. Hilton. You're going to have to find some dump-off routes, some ways you can offset that defense that he's going to be throwing at you. And I think they'll do that. I think Andrew Luck's smart enough to see that and figure it out. Well, he's a Stanford-educated guy. He can
Brown and Richardson have to have a big day. I mean, Richardson's really struggled this year. Brown's been all right. They have to have a big day in order for Andrew Luck and the Colts to win this game. But tomorrow, first game of the day, we have San Fran, who is a wild card team that's a 2.5-point favorite at Carolina.
Something we talked about earlier. I don't think that there's many stats that are going to say a lot about this game. We got 2 styles that are pretty similar, in your face, running it at you, mobile quarterbacks, hard hitting, fast paced, old school football with a little pistol college flair. They like to hit you hard. They like to run it down your throat. Both teams do, and they like to have a quarterback option around the edge where you can throw out of that or flip it off. 2 very similar styles. It's going to come down to which quarterback performs the best. If Kaepernick outplays his opponent, he's going to win. If Carolina plays better on the offense, then I think they're going to win. It really is just going to come down to which quarterback can play the best, to who's going to win this game. I think that the teams match up very well. They're very similar, and it should be a good game.
10-9, Carolina won at San Fran this year. That front 7 for Carolina, they've got a really good defense, but on the other side, San Francisco has a really good defense too. And I think what's going to decide this game is Steve Smith not being 100% for Carolina, and the way Crabtree has come on since coming back from injury for the 49ers. I believe Kaepernick, Gore, and Crabtree, I believe they squeeze it out here at Carolina.
Yeah, the thing I like about Carolina in this game is I think that Kaepernick has had a little more success, has a little more talent around him, but I think Cam Newton can actually throw it a little bit better than Kaepernick can. When you've got 2 teams with the exact same style that are going to be running at each other, looking to stop that first, I think Cam Newton's arm is a little better than Kaepernick's. They should be able to pull this game out.
Yeah, and everybody says that Peyton Manning has the most to gain, I guess, from this weekend if he wins, trying to put away those rumors that he can't win in the playoffs. He's lost 9 of 11 in the first round. But I think that Cam Newton can really say a lot if he wins this game against Kaepernick. I believe that'll go.
The first of this year, we were saying, is this what we're going to get out of Cam Newton his whole career? And he looked good. First couple years looked pretty good. Last year, not so great. We thought, well, he's peaked. That's all we're going to get out of him. But he's turning it around. He's looking good.
He doesn't have a lot of weapons around him, though. I mean, he's got Steve Smith, who's an excellent receiver, but I think if he doesn't have them, then they'll struggle.
Exactly.
Last game of the weekend, prime time. NFL did a good job spotting this game. San Diego at Denver. Denver has the largest spread, 9.5 over San Diego.
Yeah, look at the numbers here, and like I said, maybe the numbers don't apply to the Chargers this year. But if you look at the numbers, it should be all Denver. They've already beat Denver. They beat Peyton at home. I guarantee you, Peyton has thought about that every week since it happened. He's been picking apart that defense, and he's going to know exactly everything they're going to do. That's the magic of Peyton Manning. That's the greatness about him. But let's look at the numbers for the Broncos
and
here.
Quickly, don't forget that Thursday loss against San Diego, he didn't practice that week.
He did not practice
He had those
at all.
hurt ankles.
Yep.
He was sitting in the tub with his face mask and his iPad. Just something to consider.
Yeah, and he had even with the hurt and him not getting to practice, there was actually a shorter amount of time that he actually had to look over stuff. But anyway, we look at the numbers here. Offense for Denver, first all time, 37.9 points per game, best ever. 457.3 yards per game, which is best in the NFL. 340 pass yards per game, best in the NFL. 117 rush yards per game, which is 15th in the NFL. But they do have the ability to run it when they need to. They've got 3 backs that can come in there and run it hard if that's what they need to do. Their defense, not so great. 24.9 points per game, 356 yards per game, 254 of those being passing yards, 101 of those being rushing yards. Defense has struggled a little bit this year, especially missing some key elements. Champ Bailey's been out most of the year hurt. We've had some problems up front. You know, we're gonna miss our big lineman this week and for the rest of the season, obviously. But it hasn't mattered much because Peyton has been able to score enough points. This year, he's 450 completions for 659 attempts, 5,477 yards, 68.3% completion ratio, 55 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. What else can you say about those numbers? Of course, you got Phillip Rivers and the Chargers coming in, who, like I said, emotionally, most powerful team in the football in the NFL right now. Could cause some problems just because they're not scared of anything.
Yeah. Here's the thing I just noticed while you were talking. You said they had 3 backs that can run the ball really well, which they do. But if I'm John Fox in this game, nobody touches the ball except Noshawn. You've had a little bit of fumbling problems, and the way that Rivers was able to control the ball last week, I mean, he only threw 16 passes, didn't throw a pass in the fourth quarter. They had 196 rushing yards. We know the Denver defense isn't really good, so you can't take the risk of having a turnover and giving them an extra possession against you.
You can still run ball in there. He can catch some a little bit out of the backfield. I agree. You do not want him running the ball up the middle. I mean, he's going to be a great back, and he's played very well this year. Has a tendency to fumble it. Noshawn's your best pass protector. He's your best bet.
And something that me and you and a lot of Denver fans are probably something that it might come down to that we're afraid of is Denver having to get a stop at the end of the game. And we all saw what happened last year against Baltimore with the blown coverage heard around the world and the defensive backs falling on their back.
Yeah, when we need a stop at the end of the game, our go-to play is rush everybody, get a sack.
Yeah.
We're lacking some.
And now we don't have Von Miller.
No Von Miller up front. Still got some great defensive linemen. If it comes down to it, that's going to have to be our game plan. You know, we've had veteran leadership in our secondary for a long time with Champ Bailey. He's not there. Even if he was there, he's not the Champ Bailey of 10 years ago. It's going to be rough. We're going to have to score some points quick.
And all that being said, you know, the only teams left on that side of the playoffs are the Denver Broncos and the 3 teams that beat the Denver Broncos this year. So, I mean, they have an uphill battle to climb, but I like them this week against San Diego.
Yep, me too.
We're up against the break here, so we're going to take a break. We'll come back. I'll give you my weekly guarantee, strong words from a manly man. Then we'll get a call, try to get a call in, talk a little Titans coaching situation. Don't forget to vote on our Facebook poll. Which wildcard team do you think is more likely to win this weekend? New Orleans, Indy, San Fran, or San Diego?
And don't forget, if you have any questions, you can hit us on Twitter or post it on our Facebook page. We'll be glad to try and answer those for you.
All right. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. I decided we didn't need to go a full 30 this week because we keep overlapping every time. But there's no way we could have quit at 25. All right. So we'll come back and we'll talk this real fast, and then we'll go to Lucas.
I say you go ahead and get it. Is she coming? Allie! Come in. No, it must be on a delay.
Yeah.
She said we're still talking.
Yeah, it's like
Oh, that's what we're doing. We're overlapping last week, our good time.
I just woke up.